Today, we are going to be talking about the moon landing and Candace Owens and her wonderful position on all of that. It includes Bart Sibrel. I've never heard of him before, but apparently he did a documentary on the moon landing, which is also quite interesting. And yeah, we've got Professor Dave today.
Howdy. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you. This is a fun one in like the least fun way possible. These people are truly insufferable, and I've made that clear on my own more than once, and I'm pretty sure you have too, as far as I think Candace goes, right?
Well, yeah, where did I mention Candace? Yeah, she cropped up in that dumb quote about science as a religion in a peers panel segment that I commented on. She's also made an appearance in the Flat Earth Antarctica trip because she funded a producer to go down there. So
I didn't
she's kind of
actually hear
all over
about
the map.
that. That's
Yeah,
new to me.
yeah.
But that was a fun saga too. I know Jeranism
Yes.
went and it blew his mind, and he pretty much changed on that at least.
I don't think it blew. I think he has known that the Earth is a sphere for a long time, if not always, and was using this as his excuse to bail on the grift.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that could be the case. I don't know. I don't know the man. I only heard of him after the Antarctica thing. But one thing I noticed about this video we're going to talk about is they use a lot of the same arguments as the flat earthers to deny the moon landing, even if they're not themselves flat earthers. Very
Right, right, right.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'd assume the flat earthers probably got some of those arguments from the moon landing people. Actually,
Oh, definitely.
they probably got them from each other. But
Yeah, they recycle them. The fun part with flat earthers is that you can say, well, even if the moon landing never happened, the Earth sure as shit is not flat. But then when talking to moon landing deniers who are not flat earthers, then you have to actually dissect the crap they
personally,
spew.
I
So,
favor the idea that the moon is itself flat and the Earth is actually round. I think that's a lot more fun of a spin on it. The Earth is round, but the moon
yeah,
is flat. I don't think
makes
I've
sense
heard
to
that
me.
one before.
Yep.
It's the same sort of logic, so hey, why not? Anyway, let's get this show on the road.
All right, guys, let me give you a little scenario. Let's say you took your kids to Disney World, okay? Get back from Disney World. It was a great trip. You had a great vacation. And then one of your friends says, I don't think you actually went to Disney World. Did you go to Disney World? And you said, yeah, of course. I went to Disney World. And he says, would you swear on the Bible that you took your kids to Disney World? You'd probably say, yeah, you're being pretty weird, but I would swear on the Bible and say I took my kids to Disney World. You probably wouldn't punch them in the face because you would just think they're being weird. It's a very strange thing when you talk about the topic of the moon landing to see people get so incensed over it. I realize this. I've never been a person that believed in the moon landing. It's always just felt a little foolish to me.
So that's the crux of her argument. The moon landing is foolish to her, and if it's foolish to Candace Owens, then that must be, that's all the proof I need.
She
So
must be onto something. Yeah, I love the comparison here. She's obviously talking about Buzz Aldrin, who famously has punched at least one person in the face for moon landing it all, right to his face. But it's like, dude, you're comparing like the most incredible achievement in human history, or one of them, to I went to Disneyland. Like, it's a pretty big discrepancy in terms of like how big that is a part of someone's identity. Not a really good analogy.
yeah, that is very questionable. She also did like a dinosaur denial video, but yeah, the guy Buzz Aldrin punched. I think it's Buzz Aldrin who punched him. It's Bart Sibrel. He actually mentions that in this. I mean, that's the story she's talking about. She's talking about this guy getting punched for like
Yeah.
bringing a Bible up to an astronaut and saying, "Would you swear on this that the moon landing really happened?" And
As though that matters at all.
I mean, I can only imagine how annoying that must be, though. Like, I haven't done anything nearly as awesome as that so far. We'll see how the future goes, I guess. But
Yeah.
I know if I were in that position, I don't know if I'd like resort to just decking somebody. I don't. That's not my style. But I understand the feeling
Yeah.
behind it.
I wouldn't
I
either, but
get
I
it.
still really like that Buzz did that.
You can see it for free. And halfway into this project, mind you, I'm meticulous. I spent 4,000 hours editing a 45-minute film. That's 40 hours a week for 2 years just to edit the movie. Halfway into the film, you see, the way I looked at it, Candace, is if they faked the moon landing, they're more likely to have made a mistake the first time they faked it. So I asked NASA, as a journalist, I'm doing a documentary about the moon landings. which was true, and send me everything you got just from the first moon mission, figuring if they made a mistake, they're more likely to have made it the first time because they never faked it before. So I meticulously went through everything, and there's very little footage. There's only like 20 pictures of an astronaut on the moon in the first mission. And you get the same footage over and over again. Well, my source at NASA believes a whistleblower sent me a tape. I pop it in, it says, do not show to the public.
Okay, we'll discuss that part in a second, but I wanted to say that I actually checked on this a little bit. Apparently, the first time they went to the moon, they only did a couple hours worth of exploration that involved taking pictures, and it was only Neil Armstrong that had the camera. So there's only like one photo which features him in its reflection. They still took a bit over 100 pictures. I think it was like 120 altogether. And, this is one area where I thankfully have at least some personal experience. Again, it's not like on the level of going to the moon, but I am a photographer. I do show photography and stuff for like music events, and you take a lot of pictures. You take maybe a good 100 or 200 on a good night over like a 3-hour period, and maybe for your purposes, let's say a good 10, 20 of those are usable or decent. Now, it's obviously different being on the moon, but I don't exactly see this as like an astonishing argument here. Like, just because they didn't take more pictures of themselves on the moon, that means it didn't happen. I mean, they were there to do like research and stuff, weren't they? Like actual research.
He's also just exaggerating. I mean, he's just lying about the number of photos. There's a lot of photos. I mean, and footage too, right? I don't remember exactly, but yeah, there's plenty of footage. Like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, especially from the other trips to the moon. But yeah, the first one still had a lot. I really hope that 120 pictures number was accurate for the actual part where they were on the moon itself. But yeah, there were a fair number of pictures taken. I don't see why that's such a sticking point for these people. How many pictures do you need, really, in a situation like this? It's not like that's the make or break of the whole affair.
What's the threshold? If they took 500 photos, then it's real? He would just call them all fake anyway. Why does the number of photos matter?
Yeah, and even more than that, it's like, if they did take that many pictures, let's say 500 or even 1,000, let's just keep going, make that number even bigger. You know what they'd say about that? Like, well, if they really went to the moon, why did they need to take so many pictures? Why did they have to do all of that? Why weren't they doing actual research there instead
overcompensating?
Oh, if it's real, then one picture should be good enough. Why didn't they just take the one picture? So you really can't win with these people.
And they're faking being halfway to the moon, dated 2 days into the flight. All the astronauts are on camera, and they're using a 1-foot model to make it look like the Earth's floating in space, and they're looking back at it from a distance. They never left Earth orbit. And what a surprise, 55 years later, they still cannot leave Earth orbit. That's why there's mannequins orbiting the moon.
I think that has to be one of the more bizarre statements I've heard come out of this man's mouth, and there are plenty in this video, but they sent dummies up to orbit. I don't know what that's about, but he's got this video.
Mannequins orbiting the moon? Wait, so does he think that we sent spacecraft to the moon but didn't land?
That's what it sounds like.
What is he saying?
That's what it sounds like he is saying.
So we can get spacecraft to the moon, we just can't have people in it?
Apparently not.
What is he talking about?
I guess that's not allowed, or maybe it's too difficult, or it's easy enough to get the mannequins up there and make it look real enough, but it's very difficult to get actual people up there, is I guess the gist of his argument. But this man says a lot of really strange things, and we're not going to have time for all of that, but of what we will cover, I'm sure we will hear some pretty wild statements from this guy. And I just want to point out to the audience that the footage that he claims he's gotten here is publicly available and has been for a long time. So it's just lying. These people, they lie all the time. And then when you point it out, they say, well, why are you so hostile? Why are you so invested in proving me wrong? Like, well, you're kind of asking. I mean, they are. They're always like, prove me wrong. You try, and then they're like, sorry, I don't accept that. You can't do that. But yeah.
Yeah, you spent your whole life whining about this stuff, and then you get upset when somebody else spends 10 seconds debunking you. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
The lack of reflection in people like this is always very apparent. I mean, they have little ability to actually self-reflect. Later on in this video, which again, we're probably not going to get nearly that far, but he goes on some things about religion and such, and you get the clear sense that this guy has questioned pretty much everything in his life except, that. Now, that's not really that bad, I don't think, because, religion, sure, whatever, it's fine. But I've noticed that there's a pattern with people like Candace and Bart where it's always the one bias driving the other bias, and it's usually like this extreme, very fundamentalist view of the world that doesn't allow any room for compromise. They need the most fundamentalist of the fundamentalist.
yeah. I just don't understand how people going to the moon challenges their faith in any way. Like, what's the connection there? Doesn't make any sense.
I guess it's like the flat earthers who believe that the Bible describes a literal domed earth, and in order to,
Yeah,
you know,
but he just said we've never left Earth's orbit, so he doesn't sound like a flat earther to me. I don't. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like he believes that the Earth is a sphere and that the moon exists and all that. We just didn't go there. So
yeah,
why?
he does.
What
But
would that have to? What would that have to do with religion or any? I mean, he's just peddling a conspiracy for I don't know what reason, and then bragging about it taking him 2 years to edit a 45-minute video. Just like, hey, I suck at editing, therefore the moon landing didn't happen. It's pretty incredible.
well, with how long it takes in 2025, I can imagine in 2001 it probably did take a long time. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that he's a flat earther specifically. I'm saying that, like, with these sorts of people, these very heavy conspiracy types, it's all sort of like flowing from the same place, where they have a
Yeah.
very literal interpretation, and anything that remotely challenges that just has to go out the window. Like, if it doesn't jive with the literal exact text, it's wrong. Never mind the fact that those texts don't really jive with each other, but they don't seem to notice
Yeah.
that. Like,
It's just contrarianism. Yeah.
yeah, it's the one unquestioned. I mean, Candace, she has this dinosaur denial video that she did, and I covered that, and it is just a complete nightmare of like the same sort of stuff where she calls dinosaurs, oh, that's fake and gay. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's just, I mean, if
Yeah.
we could go on like a whole tangent about like what it means to your worldview if you just decide everything on gut feelings, but there'll probably be room for that later. So
Yeah.
keep it
Everything
moving, I
that
guess.
challenges my faith is wrong because I say so.
Well, yeah, that's always what people like Candace do and people like Bart do. It doesn't matter whether it's flat Earth or moon landing hoaxes or dinosaur denial. And okay, we were going to move on there, but now I've got to hang on this for one more second because I actually have a couple of friends. I originally came from Kentucky. I'm in the UK now. And I have friends in Kentucky, and two of them, one of them became a flat earther and then became a dinosaur denialist. And the other friend, they're pretty close, he became a dinosaur denialist, but not a flat earther. And it is true that there's like a lot of contrarianism there. One interesting thing I noticed about that dynamic, though, is the one who's also a flat earther is a biblical literalist and has been for a long time. And the one who doesn't buy the flat earth thing is something of, I guess, an atheist, but not very skeptical, more broadly speaking. Or, I mean, I'm sure they think they're skeptic. So
They think they're skeptics. Yeah.
it's just interesting how these sorts of patterns play out. I don't know how a person denies the existence of like dinosaurs and manages to take themselves seriously after a point. That's probably a little bit too rude to say, but we're going to say it anyway.
For what motive? It doesn't make an ounce of sense.
Yeah, for what purpose? For why would you need to do that? But I mean, religion aside, I guess people have a lot of reasons for believing things like that. Because it can't all just go back to that one thing. As you said, it's kind of like this contrarianism aspect, I feel like.
Yeah, it just makes them feel special.
Secret knowledge.
You can't
secret
trick me.
information.
I see through the lies. I'm Neo in the Matrix. It's delusional narcissism.
Oh, the Matrix thing. How they've ruined that movie. It's a
Yeah.
shame. It's a real shame.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, they really did fake the moon landing. How sad is that?
Hello, Apollo 11. Houston, Goldstone says that the TV looks great. Over. Okay, Roger. We're mapping in on Earth.
Okay, so what we're seeing here on the right-hand side is allegedly
It's just the Earth. Like, I hate to spoil it for you, but it's just the Earth, and he's about to go on this long tangent about how the fact that the Earth can be seen so small and then so large in other views means that they were using a model of the Earth outside of the fake spaceship. It's basic, like, this guy doesn't really understand anything about how cameras work, how like photography works, field of view and such. I don't know if you know anything about that, if you're a camera
No,
person.
not a lot. But also, how big or how small is it supposed to be? That depends on how far away you are from an object. There's a certain distance from the Earth where it will have that apparent size. As you go further away, it gets smaller. As you go closer, it gets bigger. Like, I don't. What is he not? What is it? I don't understand the argument at all. It's the wrong size. Based on what?
Well,
Right.
technically, I think his claim is that they were orbiting the Earth. Apparently, is I guess that's his claim. But he also makes other claims. Like, at some points, he says that it was a ball suspended outside the window of the fake ship interior, and then sometimes he'll actually say that, oh, they were in orbit around the Earth. They were not. I guess he was saying they were like 130,000 miles away at that time. And, like, I don't know how he squares that circle of, oh, they were faking it, but they were also in space. I'm not sure, like, how he does that, but he does.
Yeah, it's one or the other.
He does a lot of that. He may not be actually saying that they were really in orbit around the Earth, but you got to think, they would probably be better at faking it. They'd probably have, like, a better idea for how to fake it than how he's saying they went about it. I mean, if this guy who, and no offense to him, or I guess full offense if he wants to take it, but I get the feeling he isn't the smartest guy ever. And so if he can figure it out, then that's probably a sign of, like, really, really bad production. So, yeah, I don't know, like, he's claiming the CIA was responsible for the CIA
Right.
or Stanley Kubrick or whoever, and I feel like they should
Yeah,
be better at it.
the contradiction of, like, oh, this incredible conspiracy that goes all the way to the top, and all these millions of dollars spent on something, combined with even I can spot the inconsistencies, even though he has no idea what he's talking about. It doesn't work.
Yeah, and he has other arguments that are also very suspicious, and we won't get to these either, so it's worth at least talking about one of them, where he says there was this AI conference in Russia, in Moscow or something, and Vladimir Putin was there, and they were testing super advanced AI that could detect deepfakes and such, and they plugged a Chinese lunar lander photo into it, and it said it was real, and then they plugged in one of, like, the Apollo missions, and it said it was fake, and it's like, deepfakes are a very specific type of thing. Even if that story were true, which I guess Russian state TV claimed it was, that's not the purpose of deepfake, software that investigates what deepfakes, which
Yeah.
pictures are deep. It's not what they do.
Also, we didn't have that technology in the 1960s, so it's literally impossible.
I mean, yeah, that's the corollary there, but that's less important because, like, the whole thing is just it's complete silliness all around. Like, no matter what angle you look at it from, every argument he uses like this is just more of this same sort of, like, silliness. But yeah, I mean, even if they did have deepfakes in the '60s, I don't think that, like, that would have been very relevant to anything to do with, like, this moon landing. He's not even claiming that it was CGI that they definitely didn't have back then. I know that some people claim, like, oh, they used CGI to fake the moon landings, which is, I guess, what he's getting at. But even if they had been able to do that, he's not claiming that that's what they did. His claim is that
no,
they
it
were
sounds
in a
like
studio.
he's talking about studio trick photography, all this, whatever, Kubrick did it or whatever it is. But it's also very confusing because it sounds like he's admitting that we've been to the moon since, or that craft have landed on the moon, right? If the Chinese one was a legitimate image, then we've landed craft on the moon. So he's just saying that the first couple times were fake, I guess, right? So then by
Yeah,
extension, if we've done it later, then why couldn't we have done it then? What's the difference?
yeah. I guess you can't expect consistency from these people. They're not really about that life. But it seems like he does think spacecraft can go to the moon. Again, he's not like a flat earther. But it is like he does think that the Van Allen belts are a problem. He goes on to talk about the Van Allen belts. They always bring up the Van Allen belts, you
Yeah.
know.
As though
And
they're like this solid brick wall, impenetrable. It's just a region where there's more radiation. Like, okay.
yeah, just this impenetrable barrier of like lead or something that you just
Yeah.
cannot get through if you're a human. So the guy behind the Van Allen belts is what James Van Allen, I believe it is, from NASA or whatever. And he himself is on record as saying that the Van Allen belts weren't like a major problem for getting to the moon, but when it comes down to it, people like this don't care because they'll just be like, well, he's obviously just in on the conspiracy, which I guess fair enough. If it is a conspiracy, I suppose he was. But we know, like, the amount of radiation in the Van Allen belts. It's not an impenetrable barrier of radiation that just kills humans immediately. Like, are
Yeah.
they claiming it's radiation sickness or like instant death? They never make it clear. We accept that some level of increased risk is allowable. It's not
It's a
opportune.
minimal increased risk, and the astronauts accept that risk to go to the moon. You know?
Yeah, it's not opportune, but what is really?
Yeah.
It's not even a significant increase for that kind of trip. I don't believe
Yeah,
over
a little
baseline.
bit, but they're also shielded by the spacecraft. Like they build the spacecraft with that in mind,
Thinks they're
to
flying
shield
through
them.
space like Super
Yeah.
Saiyans or something. Dragon Ball stuff.
Is allegedly the Earth floating in space. But in fact, that is a circular window of the spacecraft. You can kind of see the thickness there at the bottom. And they've moved the camera at the back of the spacecraft and they turned out all the lights. And you're seeing part of the Earth outside of a circular window. But it looks like the Earth floating in space from a distance. And this is the footage that we uncovered that proves that they never left Earth orbit, because there it is right out the window, and they're faking being halfway to the moon. They allegedly have the lens at the window's glass to shoot the tiny Earth far away. But when we show the final clip, you'll see that the camera's at the back of the spacecraft. All these segments we got were unedited. They only showed about 10 seconds of this to the public. That's why it says do not show to the public at the beginning of this unedited reel.
That's pretty astonishing that he thinks it's like do not show to the public because it's just super secret or something.
Yeah. Also, yeah. So what you said was right. He thinks that is footage of the actual Earth taken from low Earth orbit. Like, has he ever seen Earth from low Earth orbit? You can't capture the whole thing. You can't see it all. It's impossible. There's
I
no way to do
think-
it. What is he talking about?
I think what he's saying is that they're using like a cutout sort of thing to frame it. So what he's saying is, and he's not making it terribly clear anyway, but what he's saying is they had the camera in the back of the fake spacecraft, and then they had like a cutout thing that only showed like a portion of the Earth to make it look like it was deep in space, even though it was like right under them or something. Which, again, it really contrasts with what he's saying about it being like a 1 foot ball suspended outside of this fake aircraft. How is it both?
Yeah, and he keeps harping on floating in space, as though that sounds like a flat Earth thing to say. Like, dude, whether you're in low Earth orbit or halfway to the moon, it's floating in space. Like, what's the difference? How far away you are from it? But anyway, I just don't get it. Like, it sounds like he's pretending they are in the low Earth orbit, and they're clearly not. You cannot see the whole Earth from low Earth orbit, so it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't really understand his train of thought in general, but it is interesting that you pointed that out because on reflection, it does sound kind of like a flat Earth thing to say.
Yeah.
But he's
Floating in space. Oh my god! Like, yeah, it's in space. What the fuck are you saying? Well, you're not saying anything.
he doesn't seem to like take on this whole flat Earth perspective, but he does kind of like very strongly hint towards it at the very least.
Yeah.
He uses the parallel lines argument later on in this video, that the lines always have to be parallel, the rays always have to be parallel, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, not the rays. Actually, that's one line of argumentation, but he's talking about shadows. Like the shadows always have to be parallel,
Of
and
course.
it's really just a trick of perspective.
Yep.
It's really just about a misleading angle, essentially. Especially like there's one rock that's turned a certain way, and he's like, "Oh, you can see here that like the shadow is at like a 90-degree angle, and it's not what you're seeing at all. What you're seeing is actually like you've got a perspective where you can see behind the rock." It's some fascinating stuff.
Flat earthers do this too, right? They try to pretend that the sun or whatever is actually a local source of light, but they're just misunderstanding perspective. That's all it is.
Now, what you just heard, and you can play it again, is the talk, is because they're in Earth orbit, only a couple of hundred miles above the Earth, they would have an instantaneous conversation with NASA. Like, I might say, hello, how are you? They would say, I'm doing fine. How are you? I'm doing okay. But they're supposed to be halfway to the moon or 136,000 miles away. So what they did is they faked a 4-second radio delay as if it took 2 seconds to go out to them and 2 seconds for the radio transmission to come back.
Hello, Apollo 11. Houston, Goldstone says that the TV looks great. Over.
There are 4 seconds of dead air, and now you'll hear the CIA prompting them to speak after the 4 seconds.
So that's kind of fascinating logic there. Like these astronauts apparently couldn't count 4 seconds for the delay.
Right. Also, they're not 4 light seconds away. The moon is 1 light second away, I think, if that. And so, yeah, they're probably half a light second away. Here, let's look it up. How many light seconds away is the moon? The moon is 1.28 light seconds away. So if they were halfway there, they'd be about 0.6, 0.7 light seconds away. So just barely over half a second. So there's no need for any enhanced delay. So this is just falling flat on its face at the get-go. It's not four light seconds away. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's one thing. I'm not sure he really knows what he's talking about, this man. I'm starting to feel like he's not a very good investigative journalist of any kind.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is where Neil Armstrong lied.
Roger, Houston, Apollo 11. Calling in from about 130,000 miles out.
He just kind of insists there that
it's a lie because I say so.
Yeah, that's all he does. He doesn't. Right. He frames it as though he has like some incredible proof coming up, like, oh, he knew he was lying, but no.
Yeah, they'd be idiots if they fabricated a 4-second delay. They'd be idiots because they're not supposed to be 4 light seconds away. So they'd be doing something. If they did what he is saying they would do, it would be giving it away that it's a fake. It's the complete opposite of reality. You can't with these guys. It's ridiculous.
I just kind of wonder like what that train of logic flows from. I've watched this video a few times now trying to figure out exactly this man's thought process. And that's the real Van Allen belts. That's the real impenetrable barrier. This man's thought processes just don't make sense.
Yeah, so go ahead and freeze it there. So he just lied. This is the part that's in all the NASA reels. He claims he's halfway to the moon, but what you're seeing is really a circular window of the spacecraft with the camera back. If that were really the Earth floating in space, the lens would have to be at the glass, right? But it's actually at the back of the spacecraft. All the lights are off, and you're seeing a circular window in the foreground, outside of which is completely filled with the Earth and low Earth orbit.
I feel like you had a thought there because you made a face.
Holy shit, man. I mean, again, you cannot take a photo of the entire Earth from low Earth orbit. You cannot do it. But this whole thing is like, you could take a photo of the Earth if the camera was against the glass, but if you pull it back away from the window, you can't now? What the hell is he talking about? Nothing he's saying makes an ounce of sense. I don't even know what to do with it.
It's fun for just how much it doesn't make sense. I mean, how far back does he think they're pulling this camera in order to get it that small in the first place?
Why can't you see the entire interior of the spaceship? They're very clearly, okay, it might not be pressed against the window, right? It's a little bit, but I mean, like, I don't know where it is, but who cares? Like, the idea that you would suddenly stop being able to see the Earth if you pulled the camera back a little bit, it doesn't mean anything.
It's very odd, like, how he doesn't understand anything about framing pictures. Like, when you're taking a picture, it's all about how you frame it. If you're looking at, like, an object against, like, something like a black surface or something, you don't have a sense for perspective. Think of, like, if you put a quarter on like a black surface, a table or something. You can take a picture from like one, like, from a certain distance up, and you're not going to have any sense for how big the quarter actually is. But if you add in, if you put your hand in there, you're going to have more of a sense for it, and that's the kind of arguments he's about to make here in a second.
They even insert a little crescent piece of material into the window to make it look like the Terminator line between night and day. This is the outtake. We have the unedited reel. That's why it said don't show to the public at the beginning. And here they are removing part of the transparency in front of the window and part of the special effect. That's a work light inside of the spacecraft. And then the lights come up and you see that they're in Earth orbit all the time. And we're using a 1-foot model of the Earth using the
Oh,
circular
wow.
window to fake being halfway to the moon.
He thinks that they're using just a small ball outside of the window. He thinks that they're using, like, they're actually in space and just floating around the Earth. He thinks a lot of things. It's hard to tell what he actually thinks is happening here because of
Yeah.
all of this stuff.
It's not clear if he thinks that that's trick photography on the actual Earth or if it's some other object. All I saw in that was that the view of the Earth got obscured by something inside the spacecraft for a moment, and then the camera turned around and they turned on a light inside the cabin. Wow. Really
I kind
cool.
of wonder if he's also confusing, like, what's happening in terms of the reflection and such, because the whole window looks blue, but I'm not sure if that's actually the Earth we see there. It doesn't really look like it to me. I mean, if you freeze certain frames as the arm goes by, it looks like the Earth is actually very small in the corner, but it wouldn't really matter a whole lot anyway, because depending on how you frame the shot, I mean, it could look much bigger in the window once the light is on than it does when the light is off, even assuming it's the same distance away. It's just how that sort of thing works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just nothing here.
Well said, Professor Dave. Unfortunately, that's all we could do because of tech issues, but we may do more either on this or another subject, so if you like this video, let me know, and I will talk to him about it and we can see what happens. But before we go, I just have one more thought to share on this whole thing. The difficult part about making a video like this is interpreting and understanding someone like Bart Sibrel, who doesn't seem to agree with himself on almost anything. All of his arguments contradict themselves and other arguments he is making. It's a very confusing thing, and as confused as I am, or Professor Dave was, or you the audience are currently, imagine how much more confused somebody like Bart Sibrel himself must be. In fact, I think we could say that Bart Sibrel preys on people's confusion. He makes them confused and brings them into his conspiracy with that. They're overloaded with complete bullshit, and it turns out complete bullshit can be quite compelling sometimes. So, that sucks. Anyway, thanks for watching, thanks for being here, I hope you have a great one, unless your name is Bart Sibrel.